Hey everyone, Mike Burke here with InsideRealEstatePhotography.com. I've gotten quite a bit of questions in regards to my video on Cubicasa floor plans concerning just how accurate the measurements actually are. So we're going to take a look at that very question in this video and also compare the results to Matterport floor plans and see which one is more accurate. I was actually pretty surprised by the results, and I think you might be too. So this is an experiment that I've been wanting to conduct for quite some time now. As I mentioned, I've gotten quite a bit of questions from viewers of this channel about how accurate the Cubicasa floor plans actually are, and I've been meaning to find out this information for myself as well. If this is a product we are selling, I feel like we should be as educated on it as much as possible. So I was asked to do floor plans for a house I was shooting the other day, so I seized the opportunity to run this test. I also had the Matterport Pro 2 camera with me, so I knew I could do a floor plan through Matterport as well to see which one was more accurate. First, I did a floor plan using the Matterport Pro 2 camera, then I went back through the house and did another floor plan with Cubicasa, then finally I used my laser measure to measure all the rooms, so I knew I had fairly accurate measurements to go off of to compare the results from Matterport and Cubicasa to see which one was closer as far as accuracy is concerned. I just also want to mention that I'm using an iPhone 12 Pro to do my Cubicasa scans with, which has LiDAR. Cubicasa states that phones equipped with LiDAR are supposed to be more accurate than phones without, so if you're using an older iPhone or a phone without LiDAR, then most likely your floor plans are going to be less accurate than what you see in this video. So to be fair, before we get into the results, I just want to make perfectly clear that both Cubicasa and Matterport state that their measurements in their floor plans are approximate, so they're not claiming to be perfectly accurate. I've always been aware that they are approximate, but I just want to see for myself just how far off they might be with their measurements. I've also had clients ask me about their accuracy, so now after doing this I have a general idea just how accurate they are, and now after watching this video you will as well, so you don't have to do this experiment for yourself. Alright, now let's take a look at some of these results and see how they compare. I always assumed that Matterport was the more accurate one, being that they make a claim on their website that the Pro 2 camera has an accuracy within 1%. I assume this claim applies to their floor plans, but I'm not entirely sure. I also assume Matterport was more accurate because the camera is a dedicated 3D image maker versus Cubicasa, which is done through an app on your phone through your phone's camera. But I have to say I was surprised with what I found out. I also completely realized that I'm not perfect either, and my measurements with the laser may not be 100% accurate. There's definitely a margin of error within all these approaches, so take this all with a grain of salt. Alright, let's have a look at the results. Alright, so I'm not going to take you through every single room in the house and bore you to death. We'll just take a look at a select few rooms and see how Cubicasa compares to Matterport and how they both compare to the actual measurements. At the end, I'll give you an overall consensus on which, if either, seem to be more accurate overall based on my measurements. First, let's take a look at the living room. Cubicasa's measurements are 15 foot 5 inches by 14 foot 6 inches. Matterport's measurements are 15 foot 1 inch by 14 foot 10 inches. The actual measurements with the laser measure were 14 foot 6 inches by 14 foot 3 inches. So Cubicasa was off by 11 inches in one direction and 3 inches in the other. 11 inches is quite a significant difference. Matterport was off by 7 inches in one direction and 4 inches in the other. So neither of them were really even close to accurate in this room, with Cubicasa being off by almost a foot in one direction and Matterport being off by over a half a foot in one direction. Matterport overall was the more accurate one in this instance. The overall measurement with the lowest margin of error was by Cubicasa, and it was in the garage for whatever reason. Cubicasa's measurements were 20 foot 2 inches by 21 foot 4 inches. Matterport's measurements were 21 foot 1 inch by 21 foot 10 inches. The actual measurements were 20 foot 5 inches by 21 foot 2 inches. Cubicasa was only off by 3 inches by 2 inches, and Matterport was off by 7 inches by 8 inches. So Cubicasa was obviously the more accurate one here and wasn't off by a ton, but sadly, even still, it wasn't that accurate. Finally, let's take a look at one of the tighter spaces and see if that had any effect on the accuracy of the scans. For the laundry room, Cubicasa's measurements were 5 foot 3 inches by 8 foot 11 inches. Matterport's measurements were 5 foot 10 inches by 9 foot 4 inches. The actual measurements were 5 foot 3 inches by 8 foot 8 inches. So Cubicasa was spot on with one measurement of 5 foot 3 inches in this instance and only off by 3 inches in the other direction. Matterport was off by 7 inches by 5 inches. Alright, so I'm not going to drag this out and take you through more rooms because I think you have the general idea by now. There was a margin of error by either Cubicasa or Matterport, anywhere from a couple inches to almost a foot in some cases. Neither of them got any of the rooms perfectly correct, but one of them had 3 instances of spot-on measurements for one of the dimensions, as you just saw in the laundry room, and that was Cubicasa. That was the big surprise to me in this experiment, because as I stated earlier, I thought that Matterport camera was accurate within 1%, and it's not even close to that. Cubicasa though did have the biggest inaccurate measurement, as it was off by 17 inches in one instance, although the Matterport camera was not far behind because it was off by 16 inches in one instance. When it comes to who is more accurate overall, it's really difficult to declare a winner. They both had a similar margin of error throughout the floor plans, but since Cubicasa actually had 3 accurate measurements, I would have to give the prize to them. I would also have to give them the prize as the best choice because it only takes 5 minutes to create a Cubicasa floor plan versus over an hour for the Matterport, and that's a huge advantage. Before doing this experiment, I thought the Matterport was way more accurate, so it might be worth the extra time to do it if it yielded more accurate results, but from my findings, that's definitely not the case. There is no accuracy advantage to Matterport floor plans whatsoever, and it takes so much longer to do. I also want to add that you can change the measurements for either Cubicasa or Matterport floor plans, so if you want more accurate measurements, you could take your own and then later plug those measurements in when you get your floor plans back. It only takes about 15 minutes or so to do the laser measurements, so that combined with doing the Cubicasa floor plan, you're still only looking at maybe 20 to 30 minutes total on-site time, which is still way faster than even doing just the scan portion of the Matterport floor plan, not even including doing the laser measurements. Alright everyone, that's all for this video. I hope this gave you some knowledge on how accurate your results might be when creating floor plans with these 2 companies. I know I found it enlightening myself. Thanks so much for watching this video, and if you found it helpful, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. I really appreciate your support. Thanks so much again, and I'll see you again on the next one.